Hi, my name is Ellie. I'm 22 years of age, and today I'm going to talk about being an Aspie and what it's like dating as an Aspie, or just what it's like dating an Aspie, generally speaking, depending on how you look at it. I wanted to thank you for watching this video beforehand, and extra thanks if you decide to subscribe to me if you have not already done so already. Um, I decided to make this video not just to help those who are diagnosed with this disorder, but also just to help people who maybe know someone or are dating someone with Asperger's, or simply if people who are just curious as to what it's like just being in other people's shoes or whatever. Um, so I can't. Some people ask me, so what's it like being an Aspie, or what is it like dating as one? Um, I can't really answer these questions because I can't speak for all people. Let alone I can't I can't say what it's like not being an Aspie or whatever because I never walked in the shoes of someone who wasn't diagnosed with Asperger's or whatever. Um, but I'm going to talk about my own personal experiences as far as dating goes and some of the characteristics involved in dating that I have in common with other people who have Asperger's. Um, I can be a little socially awkward at times. I mean, I need to take a little more time to think things through as far as what I want to say. And, you know, it kind of sucks because it's like, I wish I could be like one of those people who kind of come up with cute pickup lines right in the spot or, who are just seem to do really well in social situations, generally speaking. But, I kind of just got over it. I mean, I guess that, I just think things through, but at least when I do speak, what everything's more well thought out. Um, Sometimes it can be difficult for me to give eye contact with people I'm not entirely comfortable with. And if I try to express myself when I'm not comfortable with someone, I may end up stammering, which gets really annoying. I will admit that. Um, and it also gets frustrating when I want to say something, but I don't have it quite prepared in my head. And then, or if I try to speak, I might end up stammering, and it's like, and it makes me even more frustrated. It's like, and because I end up doing like, oh well, epic fail, quite frankly. Um, but I've gotten better with that over the years. Just with little tricks and such that I learned and everything else. For as far as like the stammering and such goes, and not really speaking my mind quite. Some people attribute this to a lack of confidence. Um, this is true for some people, and to an extent, it was like that with me too. I mean, a little bit here and there, but not so much anymore. Um, However, I think that for people like myself, it's more about being an introvert. And introverted people, they just simply need a little more time to think things through. But when they do speak, um, their thoughts are a little more thought out and have a little more depth to them. I tend to think, but that's just my personal opinion. Um, I I think it's kind of silly when people automatically assume it's a self esteem or confidence issue, but as I said before, a lot of it is simply it's just people just need a little more time to think things through, and it's I just wish more people understood that. Um, I mean, it does suck not being like a pro at saying like the wittiest remarks on the spot each and every time without fail, and being able to do so suavely. But it's alright. I mean, sometimes I could do that if I've the conversation pre-planned in my head. If this person says A, then I think of what to say for B, or I can say C or D or E or whatever. Trying to figure it out that way. It's worked out for me. I mean, this is gonna sound like cheating too, but sometimes, like, if I'm about to watch a movie with someone or whatever, I might read I here and there will like read the script online or even watch the movie beforehand myself, and then I think to myself, well, at this part when they say this or when this happens, I'll say this, and come up with some creative pickup line that way, and give myself a little more time to think it through that way. It's kind of cheating. But it's not like they have to know about it unless one of the viewers here decides to tell on me. Just kidding. Um, it's worked out for me pretty well over the years. I mean, I've gotten better about doing it without doing that, but here and there I still do it. Um, Now, as far as eye contact goes, I used to be pretty bad about this. Like, I couldn't even do it as a kid. And I still won't do it to this day if I'm like really awkward around people. Um, what's helped me do it better is at first, what I would do is I would look at an object that was, say, nearby. Like, if I'm outside and there's a tree behind the person, I'll look at the tree, yeah, and it'll look like I'm looking at them, but I'm really not. And I'll start looking at, like, say, like, their forehead or something, just to make it look like I'm looking them in the eye, but I'm not. Kind of just trying to hide that. And I decided to just start looking them, the person in the forehead or at their nose or even their lips or maybe even their cheek, who knows, or their hair, something that's even closer than, like, say, something in the background. But, still not quite their eyes, and then eventually I start to glance at their eyes more and more, and then just start doing it with more people as you interact with them. And eventually, I just start to look people more in the eye. Just comes to me naturally now. I mean, it still gets awkward here and there. I guess that's just part of being an introvert, not being, you need a little more time to warm up to people, but then again, it's not really limited to people who have Asperger's. It's just, part of being an introvert in my case anyways. Um, Now, another thing I know a lot of people with Asperger's can struggle with sometimes is being affectionate. Now, for me, I can struggle with this greatly, and sometimes it's not easy for me to talk about my feelings, just because I'm not comfortable or I don't want to give the impression that, I just don't want people to see more of me being like an emotional wreck or something. That's just my deal though, and people can think I'm a little cold at times, but I've improved with this, become more open emotionally and things like that. But you know, I think that when you start to accept yourself more and more, and you kind of stop thinking that there's like all these things wrong with you, and you start to accept yourself for who you are, you don't really have these problems as much. um to be honest, I know I used to have like really bad self-confidence problems because I used to think about, I have all these odd interests. I was given this label of a disorder when I was a kid, and I have some odd behaviors, and I was constantly reminded of, oh yeah, you're diagnosed with Asperger's, and you're screwed for life basically, and it's like no, I'm not. Um, I kind of think that the less you think about that kind of thing, and you just kind of you don't really think about that going into social situations, the better off you are, because quite frankly, people don't really these days they don't really care that much. And a lot of people, I think, generally speaking, are a little socially awkward, especially when it comes to meeting new people. That's just kind of the way it goes, but you just kind of if you let yourself, if you just kind of think to yourself, all right, I'm a person who wants friends. I want to be able to get to know this person better. And you don't really think about, having Asperger's or something that's, or just having like that mindset where you're limiting yourself one way or another because you think, oh, there's something wrong with me. And then yeah, you are setting yourself up for failure. But, if you kind of just roll with the punches and just don't really think about that, or you just see more of the positive stuff about yourself and you just kind of try to be more comfortable in your own skin, then things will turn out to be better. I mean, in my own personal opinion, if someone doesn't like that you're a little socially off at times, just naturally, or you're a little distant at times, and they get a little snobby about it, they're not worth your time. I mean, I think that being yourself more and not really thinking about what other people have said about you and just not letting others get to you really. I think you're better off if if you are yourself, you're more likely to attract someone who is for you. If you pretend to be someone else or you try hiding things about yourself from other people, you know, you're going to attract someone who's not for you. And when they figure out who you really are and how you really are naturally, it just doesn't end well. It just doesn't end well, generally speaking. I mean, that doesn't apply. That applies more for anyone, really. Not just people who are diagnosed with Asperger's or anything else. Um, I think that with the whole affection thing, people think people who may have been diagnosed with Asperger's or whatever, they may think, oh well, I have Asperger's and I'm not very affectionate and all this, or just just kind of think about they just kind of think that they have this disorder and consistently, and therefore end up just letting it limit themselves. Like, it's not the disorder. Eventually, I sometimes think that people with Asperger's may have some so-called limitations, but at the end of the day, I think it's more the individual who limits themselves rather than a label, and they're just letting the label limit them, and therefore they are really limiting themselves. But that's my own personal opinion, and based on my own personal experiences with my own experiences, as well as just general observations and knowing other people who are diagnosed with it and such. A lack of affection is not limited to just people who don't have Asperger's. Like, if you've read like a lot of the horror stories of marriages where a man, or more often heard of like the woman, just wanting nothing to do with affection, like especially in cases where they have been married for years, or when something traumatic has happened to them, and they therefore seem to fear experiences remotely involved with that. I mean, those people can be indifferent to affection or just being awkward about it. I mean, it's not just limited to people who have Asperger's. So if you think that you have Asperger's and you can't really be affectionate, or you're not going to get affection, like that's just simply not true. I mean, it doesn't really matter who you are. You can end up having the most affection and all the affection you want in the world, or you can just get very limited and not as much as you need or prefer. As I said before, I really do think that if you keep thinking that, I have Asperger's, I'm not going to be socially accepted, or I have Asperger's, who wants me, or just letting the label get to you, like what some psychologist or two says about you, like, I just think that's really limiting, and we really shouldn't limit ourselves. mean, I mean, that's just one of many examples that applies to all people, but you shouldn't really let it get to you. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, some people who are diagnosed with it later in life might think, "Oh, well, it's the end of the world," and That's really not. I mean, it's just a label. It's an opinion anyways. It's all theory. Um, I mean, to be honest with you, I was diagnosed when I was like 6 years old, and they gave me the. I was so called on the moderate scale, simply because I didn't start talking until I was like 4 or something. Whatever. But I was reevaluated when I was in like 5th grade, which was like I want to say like 5 years later or so, and the criteria had changed greatly. So that's also part of why I was reevaluated in the first place. Excuse me, I wanted to have a drink there. Um, but I was reevaluated because that was part of my educational plan anyways, was to be reevaluated down the road to see where I needed to go after elementary school was done. And B, also, my aunt mentioned that around that same time, the criteria had been changed in the DSM for autism and Asperger's generally speaking, and my so-called diagnosis was quote changed from being like moderately autistic to like just being a high functioning individual or having Asperger's. It's pretty much all the same thing, really, if you think about it. Point is, it's like, people who are diagnosed like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, or people who are even diagnosed like a couple years ago, they may not fit the criteria for Asperger's or autism today, but they did like 15 years ago or even 2 years ago. Therefore, in that, I think it's a little ridiculous to think that, psychologists, psychiatrists, teachers, and everything have the final say in understanding people with this disorder, and saying that that these people are pretty much screwed for life. I mean, I've had someone tell me that their younger brother was diagnosed like a few years ago or something like that, and the doctor actually said to them, "Oh, he's never gonna get a girlfriend. He's never gonna learn how to drive a car." And they literally said this too. And I thought to myself, what kind of person would dare say that, oh, this person's screwed for life because of a diagnosis? Like, it's like, really? Like, you don't know that individual. You don't know what they're like. All you see is what you've read about them on freaking paper. I mean, the family, of course, was just like, okay, this is ridiculous, and it's just no, just no. I mean, the kid obviously is driving a car now, and I don't know if he's had girlfriends or not. That we didn't get into that part of the conversation. But the point is, it's like, who is someone to say that someone can't do this and they can't do that just because of what they've read about that person on paper? I mean, that's just outrageous to me. I mean, to be honest, I feel like, people like that who say that this is going to limit you for the rest of your life, like, they're just really not worth the time. I don't care if you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a teacher. Sure, you may have more background understanding of that or not, depending on who you are. But, the criteria for this disorder is constantly changing over the years as they quote learn more and more. So therefore, how can we possibly expect to take their opinion as the final authority on this? It's pretty silly to think that, in my opinion. And with that being said, that's all the more reason to, it's like, yeah, you've been diagnosed with it, but kind of take it with a grain of salt too, because I mean, we're also learning. And besides, I kind of think, why would you ask a teacher or something about this disorder when you can go straight to the source and actually talk to people who are diagnosed with this disorder? um, some people who have been diagnosed with this disorder might end up thinking that, this is the end of the road for them as far as dating or, education, whatever. That's not true at all. I mean, people who are worth the time will accept you for who you are, and they will even try to understand you better, like try to understand what it's like being in your shoes. Um, an individual I used to talk to, he said that one of his former girlfriends actually bought books on Asperger's and such, so she can understand why he had all these odd behaviors, why he was so forgetful, and she just generally wanted to get a better understanding of what it's like being in his shoes and why he was doing the things he was doing. I mean that goes to show that if someone is worth your time, they will actually try to understand you better. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, someone cares to know you more. I mean, that means they're genuinely interested in you, right? And then someone who just kind of dismisses you for who you are right off the bat just because they don't like something about you, right, based on judging a book by its cover, they're just not worth the time. I mean, if someone really were, if you told people up front that you were diagnosed with Asperger's or whatever, and they just kind of looked at you like, okay, I don't want to talk to this person because they're gonna be weird. It's really unfair to judge a book by its cover, let alone based on what the first chapter of the book is about. I mean, if you don't like someone after getting to know them for a while, fine. But if you don't like someone just because of one little thing that you noticed up front, they're just not worth the time. They really aren't. I mean, if this applies for everything in life, but if you just be yourself, you're going to attract people who are more for you as far as friends go, significant others, anything of the sort. And if you pretend to be someone else, or you try to hide something because you're ashamed, or you simply, or for whatever reason, it's going to come out sooner or later. And, well, as we may have learned in our teen years or earlier or even later, pretending to be someone else when you are when you pretend to be one person, you're really someone else. It doesn't turn out well. It really doesn't. Like, people will call you fake, or call you a hypocrite, or I mean the same thing applies here. I mean, you really can't expect people to like you for you if you can't be yourself in the first place. um but I really do hope that if you were diagnosed with it, or a friend of yours has, you know I hope that you or this other person doesn't think that this is the end of the road for them. It's really not. Um, I used to, I got caught in this mindset too, and it really cost me. Um, and it hurt me in the past, but I kind of got over it. And I just kind of get over, just got over my past. I mean, most people who really want to get to know you as a person, they're really not going to care. I mean, a lot of people are being diagnosed with it. People are just being a little more accepting of it, and they just kind of just there's just this, it's like whatever. I mean, it's not the end of the world, and don't really need to don't need to don't need to turn an anthill into a mountain. I mean, it's really not a big deal. Um, but as I said before, just be yourself. And if you're yourself, you're going to attract someone who is for you. And a lot of society might make you think that you should be one way, or you should be another. But to tell you the truth, it's like if you're trying to act one way and you're not that way, that that created image is just gonna disappear, and people are gonna start seeing seeing the wizard behind the curtain there, and it's not gonna doesn't end well. Um, just be yourself, and you're gonna attract people who are for you. And you know, if you let yourself, you can look people more in the eyes, and you can be more affectionate. You can be a little more socially suave. Just as long as you're not in that mindset where you are just limiting yourself one way or another. Just generally speaking. All right. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you have found this to be of some help for you, one way or another, whether you yourself have been diagnosed with Asperger's, you're dating someone who has Asperger's, or you are just curious. I didn't touch into too many things, I don't think, anyways. But I do hope that you found this to be worth your while. If you decide to subscribe to me, thank you very much. Thank you again for watching this video. And yeah, just good luck on all of your endeavors, and I hope you got something out of this. All right, bye.